All right, so we're going to keep on this journey through chapter 19, and this section is going to talk about the human population. And you'll learn a few qualities about it, and it's kind of scary when you think about how fast it has increased in just a short amount of time. So you saw a graph on the last one where we talked about exponential growth, and I always ask, how did we get here? Now, we have increased our carrying capacity for where we can survive. We are able to adapt and survive in more areas. If we run out of land, we just take over some more because, we have buildings and we can do indoor heat and air and all indoor plumbing and all the other stuff. But it makes me wonder if we're taking over more, but at what cost? So remember in that very first lecture, I talked about all those horrible things. I'm not to scare you, but it made me ask, is there an actual max carrying capacity for humans? Because, we are growing and overall world population, but I like here they kind of broke it up into different areas. You can see how it's increased in Asia a lot. Pretty much in Europe, it's kind of leveling off. That population's getting older. They're seeing the birth rate kind of go down in those areas, but you're seeing other areas kind of go up too. Now, what's kind of interesting, we are experiencing overall exponential growth, and it only took 123 years to add 1 billion people by year 1930. And to add 2 billion, it only took 24 years. Now, we are slowing the rate a little bit, which is good. But I'm like I've mentioned this before, I'm kind of interested in the long-term role that this current pandemic play. Is this going to have impact on overall death rates, birth rates? It's really interesting. And this is a video that kind of talks about this overall concept, which is kind of interesting to think about. And I think this is the one that shows the human population increasing in different areas. There's quite a few in here. I'm quite sorry if I get them mixed up. So there's only so much area we can survive, and this is just showing a density-dependent map. So you can see the darker it is, the more people live in that area, so you can market to certain areas. So we know Europe is quite populous, India, China, Japan, the United States in certain areas, and then other areas you don't see as much. But we are able to alter an environment, so we're able to establish and live in more areas. We're getting smarter and we're able to communicate, so we protect ourselves from the elements. We have agriculture, domestication of animals, and all kinds of stuff. So, but it's also thanks to migration. Originally it all started in Africa, and migration eventually happened. Now, we have seen advancements in technology, urbanization, sanitation, medicine, and all that stuff that have led to why some areas are showing such an increase in population and others are not. It'll be interesting. At one point in time, the way population is increasing, I think Africa is going to be this really dense hotspot eventually in the future, too. So one way that we can look at is different areas is break them up into age structures, and this is a way that we can actually look at population growth overall, because you can actually compare like the future growth rate or if there's going to be a decline. Now you'll look at the total population, and then you'll kind of compare the birth rate and the death rate, and then you can put a country if it's going to be in stage 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. There are all kinds of these different maps out there where you can see where different countries fall into. Now, if a country has a high birth rate and a high death rate, you're going to see these very steep inclines right here. It's going to be this, you're going to have a lot of individuals born, but not a lot of them are going to make it to maturity or adulthood. As the civilization becomes a little bit more stabilized, you start to see, the death rate starts to fall rapidly, more people are starting to live longer, but we still have a high birth rate. Now, eventually, once we reach a stable stage 3, we have a natural increase at this area right here, so we're kind of in this area right here. Birth rate is starting to fall, and, the death rate's starting to go a little bit to more here. Eventually, the more developed countries will be in this stage 4 right here, where you're going to have both the death rate and the birth rate starting to decline right here. All different countries are in these different ones. The less developed ones are probably more in this area. The older countries are probably right here. Now, a lot of them, if there's zero rate, they're going to be that more conical shape, because a lot of the population is going to be that middle-aged and older individuals. You can actually see it to where actually it will go through and the inside part will actually go down because the birth rate will go down so low again. Eventually, the country can rebound to where the birth rate starts to increase too. A lot of older European countries are actually in this shape right here. I don't know if we'll jump back to there. It's kind of interesting to see how things will change over time. Now, I did bring up this topic before. How do we feed all these people? And I did show this graph before on the previous lecture. Now, China was thought, okay, maybe we need to address this, and they came up with this policy. And I would love if we were face to face because we can actually have a debate on this. And, was this the right thing? People think about, okay, well, we need to figure out where we're going to have limited resources, so we need to do this. So China enacted the one-child policy a while back, and it's now being phased out because noticing some long-term problems with it. And this video talks about the long-term consequences. Certain genders were being selected for. Did we have more males than females? Why? What was the pros and cons of this? This is a great video. It's not too long to watch about how controversial this policy was because there's different things we have to think about. How do we control population? Now, one thing as we know is how do we reduce the human impact that the total number of humans is constantly growing? Because we do more damage than we don't realize, and if the numbers are going to keep growing, we're going to keep doing more damage, so we need to find a way to lessen that. So there's kind of all these different things we're going to have to think about with the growing population. One hot topic is female contraceptive methods. They outnumber those for men. They really do. And maybe there's a need for more male options. As I mentioned, the only options are condoms and vasectomies. And I did my research in male reproduction, and there are areas that are looking at like male pills. So you don't want to make it to a permanent thing to where make men infertile, but maybe something to, make their sperm production halted or something for a short term of time. Should birth control be more available? Do we need to make populations aware that, okay, you don't always have to be having babies, it's okay. You can stop at 1 or 2. Should we make our countries more accountable for shrinking their energy footprint? Money's always going to talk. If you're a country that's contributing a lot to pollution, should the countries that's neighboring you have to deal with your problems? It's one of those things we have to talk about. And shifts are going to be coming. As I mentioned, Africa is going to become one of our most populous world regions eventually, and we're going to have to take care of the people. People are going to be living longer. They already are. You're already seeing it to where, people are having to take care of their parents. So that costs money and time and all the other stuff. So, and if the population's decreasing, so the birth rate's going down, we're going to lose some of the workforce. So it makes you wonder. There's things we're going to have to think about. So there's some review videos, like I said, mostly fun, and then finally credit towards the images.